everyone, good morning. Thanks for joining me today. We are going to be doing some fringe and face framing today. So I'm Jenna Bell. I live in Alberta, Canada. I'm a stylist. I've been doing hair for 10 years and I've been working in the salon with Numa for 7 years, about since they came into Canada. And then I've been working as a new guide with Numa for about the last year. So I'm super excited to be here this morning. I'm glad you guys are all joining me. So we are going to do some fringe and face framing. So we're going to do a leaf cut fringe, and we'll do a leaf cut fringe and then carry on with adding some face framing into that. This is a really good technique to use for those clients that really like that curtain bang that's really in, those shave haircuts. This is a great addition to a shave haircut. Or those clients who, want a shave haircut but aren't really ready to commit to the full thing. This will still give them, that texture, that framing that is kind of incorporated with a shave without kind of fully going there. So we will get started. So we'll start with the leaf cut fringe. So I'm just going to wet her down a little bit. So we're going to do this with the center part. You can customize this to whatever your client has. So if they have a side part, you would just, shuffle this over to go over wherever they part their hair, but we will do this with a center part as well. If a client really likes to switch their hair up a lot, I would just go over the center, and then if they're wanting to move things around, they still are able to do that. Hold it slightly down a little bit. Okay, so take your center part here, and then we're going to want to take a triangle. So obviously when we have our clients, it's a little bit easier to determine kind of their natural growth patterns, their part, all of that. On mannequins, they don't have that as much, but you really kind of want to aim for the natural recession points on their head. This is another area you would want to consult with your client about, how heavy they want their fringe to be, if they want it a little bit softer, so that would determine kind of how deep you're taking this triangle. So we'll take it about 2 inches there over to the side. And if someone's hair is really wanting to, you can see which hair is wanting to live forward and which hair is not. So kind of really customize this to your client so that they're not fighting with their fringe and it is wanting to live where it's supposed to be. So once you kind of have that, we'll just clip out the rest, get that out of the way, and do the same on the other side. There we go. So now we have, you can always kind of check that your balance is right. But now we have both sides of our fringe there. Okay, so once you have your triangle, we are going to part this back down the middle. So you can see your center part again. So we're going to start with a smaller triangle, which is going to be our guide. So keep in mind with this, that this center piece is going to be the shortest piece. So from there, everything else is going to get longer. So even if it feels like that is too short or it's gonna be too intense, just always remember that is gonna be the shortest, and everything from there will get longer, and we'll have that sweep towards the side. It's always nice to, if someone's nervous or your client's unsure about the length, it's always okay to start a little bit longer, because of course we all know you can always take it shorter. but I do always like to remind people that that is going to be the shortest point, and everything else is sweeping longer out to the side. So we'll take our little triangle here. I'm actually just going to whip this down a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to just clip the rest out of the way. And we can see our little triangle here, and this is our guide. So you can kind of take this wherever you want it to be. If you want it to sit at the bridge of the nose, you know, the tip of the nose, mouth or jaw, this can really be where you're customizing it to whatever your client is looking for. I'm going to take it around the bridge of the nose. And so keeping in mind too, when you're cutting, you don't always want to have super tight tension with fringe because that will pop up after. So keeping a very light tension so you can kind of see where the hair itself is wanting to live. And from here you can either, you could go in and just blunt cut, you can point cut, whatever you're more comfortable with. Point cutting, you just always know that it's going to be a little bit softer. Okay, so around the bridge, keep that tension of the hair a little bit lighter. And we have our first cut. So that, like I said, will be our shortest point of our fringe. So then from there, we're going to take this in about 3 different sections. So we'll section just following the angle of your triangle. Taking that down. Again, I'll just clip that out of the way. And from here, you can decide how much of an angle you want this to be. If you really want a steep angle, you can over direct this more and create more of an angle there. If you want this to be a little bit fuller and all kind of sitting, you know, around the cheekbone or the face to really open things up, you would just want to take a little bit less of an angle so it's all kind of sitting a little bit fuller here. And then using points of the face as good marks and guides for you. So when you're pulling across, kind of pulling to the nose, or if you're pulling over to the eye or the cheekbone, but always having those points of interest on her face so that when you're going through to the other side, you know you can be consistent and stay on, like have the same balance on each side. So I'm going to over direct this. Just gonna stand here. So keeping a little bit of your guide in there. We're gonna over direct this around the middle of her face. So you can see my shortest point here, so then everything will angle from there. And just keeping, I'm going to point cut that and just keep it nice and soft. So you can already start to see that sweep. So now we're going to take, depending on how full your first triangle is, if you were able to do that in, you know, one section, that's great, or even how thick your client's hair is, or if you want to section that out. So I did section that first one, kind of divide the rest of the triangle in half, but again, kind of 1 to 3 sections, just depending on how full your triangle is and how full your client's hair is. And another thing to note is when you're doing this, if you take your next section and you can't see your previous section underneath that, that's how you know your section is too big, and I would just section that out and then go into it with 3. So then again, we're going to take this, over direct across the face. Go to your same point of interest that you were at before and angle that. One more cut here. There we go. So we've got one side done. You can see how this really sweeps from the short to the long, which is so great in creating that nice sweeping leaf cut fringe. All right, so we'll do the other side here. So again, we have our guide in the middle here. I'm going to split this, set that off to the side, and now from the other side, I'm going to take this across, knowing kind of where my point of interest on her face was. And then creating that angle. And I'm just point cutting all the way down. And then we'll take that last piece there. Again, if you need to use more sections or use less sections, this is all dependent on what you and your client have decided as far as fullness and dependent on your client's hair. There you go. Okay, so yeah, we can really start to see that. So we are going to go in and layer this to really soften it up. But you can already see her hair starting to have that sweep over to the side. So we do want to layer this. We don't want this to all sit so heavy here. The layering is going to add some texture. It's going to help push the hair to the side. As we know, short hair pushes long hair. So to have those shorter pieces in the center here, that helps push that out to the side where we really get that sweep. So you're going to want to take now just a section right down the middle of your triangle. And from here, again, you can customize to what a client's looking for. If they want something really dramatic, you can angle, this back and really get those shorter layers in there. So when it falls forward, you've got a lot of that shortness to push. If they want something a lot softer with the layering, which ends up making the fringe a lot fuller, you can angle this forward and you're going to have a lot less layering, but kind of meeting somewhere in the middle. I'm just going to pull straight up off the head. And you can see our guide here fall out. So you do want to let that fall. We don't want to be cutting that more because that is the shape of our fringe here. So we're just going to pull that straight up, and from there, just point cut into there. So that'll really soften that up. And then we're going to take a little piece of that guide, and then take another section here. Again, pulling straight up from the head and taking off into that, so layering it. And then I have one more section here. There we go. So again, we've got one side done. We'll move over to the other side here, keeping a piece of that guide. Pulling straight from the head and softly layering that. Again, I'm going in with point cutting because that's going to create our softest lines. If you wanted to go in with more of a blunt edge, that's fine. It's just going to change the look of it a little bit, or you might feel like you need to go in and soften it a little bit more afterwards. So taking our last section here and cutting. Okay, and another thing you want to do is always check the balance on the outsides. If one side is longer, it's totally fine to go back there and just even it out for both sides so your balance is there. All right. So you can see that really nice sweep there. So then, if we want to incorporate a little bit more face framing into this look, I'll take these clips out. This is where we can start to go into a little bit more of that shag style, or like I said, for clients who kind of like the idea of a shag but aren't fully committed to going all the way there, just doing some face framing in the fringe is a great in-between. So right now we've just got our fringe and then we've got all this long length right around the sides here. So we're going to kind of follow from what we have with the fringe. We're going to take a section that follows right along the face here. Again, when it's your client versus your mannequin, you can customize that to your client and what their hairline looks like. Some clients have a lot finer hair around the face, in which maybe you want to take a little bit more, a deeper section here. Some clients have tons of hair and you might want to take it a little bit finer. And again, what your client's looking for, if they just want some soft face framing, or if they want to see something a little bit heavier around the face, that's something you can talk to them about and then customize your sectioning to what they're looking for. So I took about an inch around the face. If you can see that there. Just following around the hairline there. I'll let this down again. So from here we just want to carry on down with what we have been doing. So take this in sections. If we pull this down, we can see where our fringe ends and then the rest of the length carries on. So we're just going to do some side cutting. You can do some slide cutting, you can point cut, you could even use a razor if that's something you like, just to get a little bit more of that texture. So finding where that end and then slide cutting down. And then finding the rest of that section, and again, slide cutting. So that's going to create the softest face framing blend from your layers. Another thing that you could do would be just to pull this straight forward. And just point cut into that. So we have a lot of softness and blending around the face here that brings out that nice texture. And we'll do that again on the other side. taking about an inch, but that is totally customizable to your client, what they're looking for, what their hair is like. Making sure that's wet. And then going in with either slide cutting or pulling this forward and really point cutting into that to blend all the way from the fringe and creating lots of those layers and texture all the way around the face there. So if we were slide cutting, again, finding that point where your fringe ends and then carrying that down. I always like to keep my blade moving so you're not pulling on the hair, you're actually softly cutting it all the way down the strand. You don't want to be ripping on the hair. Again, keeping the hair really wet helps with that so that you're not creating unnecessarily pulling or tearing on the hair. And again, you can pull that forward. You can see where that corner is and point cutting. And if you want to add some more texture or to really add some movement into the hair, you can go down and just do a little bit of slide cutting in between there to create a little bit more movement, a little bit more texture around the face too. And we'll do that on the other side. This is a really fun cut. This is great for people who like to air dry their hair, who like just that natural soft texture. This would be something that they would love. So that leads me into our air dry shaper, which is a great product for, like I said, those people who just like to have a little bit more soft natural texture, who like to just air dry their hair. You can use the air dry shaper dry or wet. It creates a nice, effortless, natural style. So for somebody, you know, who wants to just scrunch in their hair, utilize their texture, whether you have very naturally coily hair, whether you just have soft body in your hair, you can kind of build up your own natural texture and it be very wearable. So for her, this is the air dry shaper. If you haven't seen it, it has a really great consistency. It is a clear gel-like consistency, but it's very, very soft. The air dry shaper has shea butter in it, which is going to help enhance your natural, like help add moisture into your hair. It has a blend of sunflower, almond oil, and grapefruit seed oil, which is going to add some shine. It's going to make your hair more manageable, and it's going to help protect your hair as well. So this is a really great product for all of those nice, beautiful, natural styles. So you can add this in. I would scrunch it in. You can really kind of piece it out, and your client can air dry their hair from there. If you need to, you know, if your clients like to use a diffuser, you can definitely use that. Or really bringing out just some texture by doing some twists and letting that dry into your hair as well. So the air dry shaper is something that I would definitely utilize for a cut like this, as well as the pomade from Numa. You can take, again, it's just a really great product to help then piece out your hair. Give some nice definition, especially with that nice texture that we've cut into the hair. You can really piece out that texture. It's got pearl vitamin B5 in it. which will help with moisture, and then apricot kern oil, which will help smooth and add shine as well. So that is that. As well, if a client does want to blow dry, they of course are able to use the blow dryer to help get a lot more sweep in there. So I can show you that as well. It's a nice thing about doing a fringe like this. It is very customizable. If they want it to sweep right down the middle, off to the side, if they want to wear it with their natural texture, or it's something that they want to style into their hair, you have a lot of flexibility that way. So just using a round brush, you can help direct the hair, squeezing it off to the side. Gives you a very quick visual just to see what you can do with the fringe cut bangs and some face framing in there just to add some texture. So I hope all of you enjoyed watching this. You can always ask us any questions if you have any, but I hope you all enjoyed it, and I really appreciate you joining in today. Thank you.